Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests. And side quests.
Episode 50, Jack, the Sky Elf Farmer. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining Brian Rose's table in the Levitating Platter. Hello everyone, and welcome to another week's episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial D&D podcast in my humbly biased opinion. I'm joined by another great guest, another wonderful fraternity brother of mine, so why don't I go ahead and turn the mic over and ask my guest to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do.
Hi, my name is Brian Rose. I'm a band director. I work and teach in Texas.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to continue on with your pursuit of music and actually get a band director job. So what's that been like? How long have you been band directing?
This is my fifth year teaching. So I just finished off my fifth year and yeah, I enjoy it. Like, it's fun. Like, I always like seeing those. I work with beginners a lot. So it's just seeing the eyes light up as soon as they get it. That's always my favorite, like when they get it and the music happens. That's fun.
If I'm not mistaken, you're quite the instrumentalist yourself. I think I was scrolling through some social media pictures. I see that you can pick the banjo a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up the banjo like in college. Actually, I played Rhapsody in Blue, and that has a banjo part, so I played with the orchestra on banjo. Yeah, but my main instrument's trumpet, my first love.
I was gonna say trumpet. Yeah, trumpet and banjo. Yeah, they can go together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, without me sidelining us too much, do you currently or have you ever played Dungeons & Dragons before?
Oh, yeah. I first started in, I think it was 3.5 or like the third edition. And then I took a break during the fourth and then started back up during this fifth edition. And I absolutely love fifth edition. Like, it makes sense. It's super clean and streamlined.
I agree. I actually started in 4th edition in college, and then when 5th edition came out, I was like, oh, I see. This is very old school feeling, but with my introduction into 4th edition of the game, it felt very easy for me to pick up, and I didn't have to worry so much about, oh, in this situation, you get to add this much, and then, it took away a lot of the complicated math, and you were saying streamlined a lot of it. That whole advantage, disadvantage, game changer.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then anything that can get more people into playing the game is going to be better. That's always the best. You always want, and if it gets too complicated, people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to do that,
Right.
I didn't want to do math. I wanted to play a game,
Exactly. I wanted to fight monsters, not do algebra.
Yeah, roll some dice,
Yep. Awesome. Well, this show is called Sidekicks and Side Quests, so we like to ask our guests, what is your favorite NPC or sidekick character from an RPG, video game, film, TV, etc., and why are they your favorite NPC?
Yeah, I read that question the other day, and so I was like thinking through it, trying to find my best answer. And I was gonna go from a book. It's the Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson.
Mm-hmm.
And the character that I really like out of that book is I don't know if you've read it or not, but it's a character and his name is Rock. His name is more complicated, but everybody just knows him as Rock because it's easier to say. And he's just kind of he comes from a mountain tribe type group thing, and he's just super laid back. And he's just kind of they're in a dangerous job, but he's just having a ball with it almost. Super well, it's life.
I hadn't read this book series before, but I feel like the name is familiar as far as fantasy author circles are concerned, right?
Yeah, he has he has a lot of books that are really cool, and I think he even like wrote a little bit for, and I could be wrong, so but I think he also wrote some like Star Wars ones as well, like so. So he's written kind of the different types of things, but it's the Stormlight Chronicles, I think, and then but it's I don't know, they're good books. They're still coming out with them, like waiting for the story to wrap up.
Do you have a favorite side quest from RPG, video game, film, TV, etc.? And why is it your favorite side quest?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. That's always kind of hard to like pick down, like what is, like super fun to do. Like one of the ones that's pretty fun is in the, it's a D&D one. It's the Mines of Phandalin. There's the Banshee quest. I really like enjoy that because that's an easy way you can do some cool things. I played that game through a couple times and just seeing the different ways DMs can, use that Banshee to kind of like either punish the group or like do kind of like different things. There's some cool role-playing aspects you can bring in.
Hello, everyone. I just want to take a moment to tell you about my first ever sponsor, Plus One EXP. Tony Vicinda is the mastermind behind this trifecta of triumph. He produces tabletop-themed beard balms, beard-themed tabletop RPGs, and helps to support additional tabletop content creators on Patreon. Now, each of his beard balms is flavored after the basic stats from D&D. Do you need some strength for your beard? Why, apply and feel yourself empowered with the scent of pine and cedar with a minty edge. If you're feeling rather charismatic, apply a balm of sweet-smelling amber, clove, and pipe tobacco. Each one of these balms is unique in its makeup. And of course, don't forget, Tony developed a whole RPG that allows you to harness your facial ferocity in hair-raising adventures. You can snag a copy of that game as well as a style stencil, enamel pin, or a map of the Whiskerverse. And finally, aside from all of the awesome interviews and actual plays Tony has on Plus One EXP, every purchase you make feeds into the Plus One Forward program, which supports small indie content creators to continue making amazing tabletop RPG content. So, head on over to plusoneexp.com, that's plus, one spelled out, and exp.com. in order to shop for these balms and games and more. And when you go to check out, use my affiliate code Randolph to save some coin on your purchase and to help support Sidekicks and SideQuests. How else do you think our tavern keeper at the Levitating Platter is going to keep his silver beard so awesome? Once again, the code is Randolph, like how it's spelled on episode 2 and his write-up, in order to save on your order and help support the show. So thank you so much, and now back to the podcast. To conclude the personal interview section, I always like to ask my guests, what are you passionate about and why?
I'm passionate about just spreading music in America, just getting more people, because music is for everybody. So just kind of getting more kids involved in that, and then playing games. That's my second passion, just all the different types.
Very, very cool. All right, folks. Well, you know what time it is. It's time to head into some NPC creation. So, this is the part of the show, of course, where we get to make up a fun NPC. And in talking with Brian, he wanted to go ahead and test the fates and roll the bones. So I happen to have all of my tables pulled up here. And I believe with some Foley sound effects, you should be able to let our listeners know that you have some dice on hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there's some dice. Perfect. So the first thing we need to figure out is the name for a character. And so if you want to go ahead and take your D20.
All right. I got a 15.
15. Okay. This name was suggested by our previous guest, Kenneth Vigue. The name is Jack. So we're working with Jack.
That's
Perfect.
A good name.
It is. It's a strong name. Let's see. The next thing we need to figure out is the ancestry for this character. So why don't we go ahead and roll a D100 or 2D10s and figure out what's going to be the ancestry.
I got a 95.
Ooh, this is exciting. I don't know if I've ever been this far down the list. Okay, perfect. So Jack is a sky elf, Avariel. So one of those winged elves. The next question is, what is the job or role of this character in society? And this will require just a regular D10 to roll.
Okay. I got a 3.
3 is farmer. So Jack, the sky elf, is a farmer. And the last thing we need to roll here before we get to just kind of improv, figure some things out, is the age range. So let's go ahead and roll a d8 and figure out how far along this elf is.
Okay, I got a 6.
6 would be elder. So kind of definitely
Like
on
an
the
old
older,
farmer.
an elder farmer named Jack. Let's go ahead and come up with a physical description of this character. So when you're picturing Jack, the elder sky elf farmer, what are you envisioning? What comes to your mind's eye?
Cantankerous, like kind of wizened, kind of like slumping.
Okay.
He's older. He's been working hard as a farmer. It's not really smiling a lot because like it's that hard type. Like it's not a smile, it's not a frown. It's like something kind of in between.
So obviously he spent some time working, cultivating the land. Do you think that his wings are still full of vigor, or are they like shrunken wings? I'm just kind of wondering on that front as well.
I'd probably put him halfway between. They're not like super ragged, but they're not like young wings. Like, it'd be much better when he was younger. It's like somebody kind of almost past their prime. Like it's that like.
Okay. Like I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah.
And I think you were already starting to do this, but what are the 3 adjectives that come to mind when you think of Jack, the farmer, sky elf?
Well, like one of the ones I kind of come up with was like kind of like wise, like they've seen a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So kind of like wise, knowledgeable would be another one, been around for a while. And then like loyal, because he's been working the same area, so it's kind of the like loyalty, trustworthiness.
Okay, so now we go back to rolling dice. The next thing we're going to figure out is what is a valuable item, a piece of lore, a secret, or an ideal or concept that the character ascribes to. So we're going to roll a d4 first to figure out what's the category.
D4, got a 2.
2 is lore, so some knowledge about the world, which fits into him being knowledgeable. Now let's go ahead and roll a d6 to figure out what is that piece of lore that Jack knows.
I got another 2.
Another 2. Okay, interestingly enough, this bit of lore states that Jack is an expert on manticores. Hopefully, manticores aren't too big of a problem on his farm, but he obviously knows a lot about them. So certainly,
it could be like a pest. Like they show up on the edge of the woods.
Right. Those manticores are getting into my vegetables again. Those are some big rabbits. All right, and then the last thing to figure out is going to be what is a particular quest that Jack would be willing to hire or recruit player characters to go and do. So let's go ahead now and roll that D12 and figure out what that's going to be.
I got an 8.
Okay, this seems to go right along with the theme, but 8 is hunt some local game. So he's a farmer, he's tending to his fields, he's an expert about manticores, and apparently when the player characters come along and meet him, he needs them to hunt some local game. So are you thinking that maybe he's wanting them to hunt some manticore so he can grill it up? Or is there some other game that he's interested in? I know some people think all elves are vegans and will never ever eat meat, but then other times they're like, no, elves eat meat. I mean, they're part of nature. They're just eco-friendly when it comes to their meal prep and all that stuff.
Yeah, you use the whole part of the manticore, every bit of it,
Okay.
Well, it could be one of those kind of like, because like he's kind of older now, and like if the manticores have been kind of a pest, like he's hiring the adventurers to go kind of like clear out some of them because they started encroaching on his farm a little bit more, and like he's getting up in his age, and like he's not able to go out and fight them like he used to.
Now, here's a question that I have, because I'm sure it's different for everyone's game, but Sky Elves, obviously, they have wings that can fly and all that stuff. Is Jack our farmer? Is he in the mortal world, like where just everyone lives? Or is he specifically like in the plane of air? Or is he in the Feywild? Or where do you envision him being?
Or maybe somewhere like in between, kind of like a mountain town, where it's like, it's kind of in the mountain and like, it's kind of like the adventures is someplace they can actually get to, like
okay,
it's pretty accessible, but probably drop him into the mortal world too pretty easily. Just kind of like random, like, right. The world is diverse, like
exactly.
add a little bit of spice.
And especially being a sky elf in the mountains makes sense because he's able to easily travel the mountain range and, go to and from town and his farm and stuff like that.
Yeah, it makes it kind of, you still have the view without the, all the other problems.
But what's going to be the reward that he's going to give the players for successfully hunting this game and bringing it back to him?
Well, he's like saved up a little money. There's some gold, everybody loves gold. Or, like his farmers are old and wise and knowledgeable. He might know how to like grow some stuff that kind of makes different potions or different healing, like bolster their supplies, like help them on their journey. Or maybe his knowledge of the area. I know where the big bad area is, but I need you to help me first. If you help me, I'll give you the information.
And certainly the fact that he's knowledgeable on manticores, God, this is going to be the best cut of meat from it. Or I know if you harvest this part of the manticore and you take it to a wizard or something, then sometimes they can make specific potions out of those kinds of parts of the manticore. So if something goes horribly wrong and the players fail in hunting the local game, or I suppose, getting rid of these manticores, or they just ignore Jack, what's going to be the consequence of either of those outcomes?
Like if you do it where like he has the knowledge on like the next step on their journey that they need to kind of like figure out, it's kind of like one of those that can kind of like bite them later on in the, so it makes like their next task a little bit more difficult, like add some difficulty to it where they're not going to expect and be like, hey, remember when you were supposed to help that guy? Or hear about like manticores like tearing apart part of a town and knowledge is lost. Or like if they go and they like fail to kill the manticores and it's player rep, like they go in the town, and he's like, oh no, don't trust those guys. Those guys, like swindlers, like they told me they could do this and then they didn't do it. And, here I am, don't trust these guys, and it's kind of like local law starts to look more closely, especially if you have like roguish or, like people who aren't so very good at, following the laws in town, it's like, oh, like, hey, and like kind of like show up. You could even do it where like he has like grandkids, he's old, they show up and be like, hey, you didn't help our grandfather, and like attacks them on the road, random encounter, like.
Okay. What are the goals and motivations for Jack?
Well, his goal is to take care of his farm and get a good crop, make a good living for his family.
So how do his goals and motivations with tending and taking care of the farm affect his general personality?
I don't know. I kind of like the idea that he's stone-faced, but he's not happy. He's not like overly bubbly. He's not like, hello, but he's like, he's happy with his work. He likes his farm. He likes doing what he does. He's not an angry farmer,
How does Jack normally interact, say, with his family and friends versus enemies and rivals versus people that work for him versus player characters? Does he act the same across all different groups, or does he kind of have a different way of acting?
I think he'd be a little bit more warm with like family and friends. Like, so once they befriend him, he becomes a little bit, how like people open up a little bit more. With like enemies or people he doesn't know, like it'd be kind of not cold, but not speak a whole lot right at first. And then it's like one of those people, once you get them talking, they don't stop.
Does Jack have a particular accent or language with which he speaks? Are there any idiosyncrasies in the way that he acts or carries himself?
Well, like I assume he's going to speak Elvish, because of the flying elves. That's one of those. Elves are kind of one of those hard ones to figure out, like with accents, like with dwarves, everybody always does like a Scottish or, like Cockney accent to it, and it's just that like, okay, like what do I do with, like elves? I don't know. Elves could kind of have like an English accent though, really, like English or American accent. They're kind of upper crust, I guess, like sometimes in their speech, Elvish is their first language and English is their second.
So the common tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, does it make him happier? Does it brighten him up if, say, someone comes out of the gate speaking Elvish? Is that going to help make that player character turn more friendly in his opinion? Because he's like, this character's speaking to me in Elvish, which is my primary language.
Probably. Well, it's just like anybody. Like if you come up across anybody, and they start speaking a language you actually understand, like you're going to just be more warm to them automatically than if they come and speak a language. Like if they start talking to a language you don't know, you're just like, well, I don't know what's going on, like, yeah, like if they make the effort, like even if it's bad, like they're not very good at it, but they try, you'd be like, all right, you're saying that wrong, but like,
let me show you how you really pronounce it. Back in my day.
Yeah.
Don't they teach Elvish in school anymore?
No, yeah, definitely kind of like that.
What impact has Jack made on the world? How has he shaped his local area?
Well, if he's like a solid farmer and he's like known about all the manticores and stuff, he's kind of teaching like the next generation of farmers in that area, since they have to deal with the manticores over there and things like that. He has like knowledge on that, just kind of moving the next kind of protector.
Jack seems to be a stability, a foundational farmer within the area. And, maybe his farm goes back several generations to other ancestors of his or not. Or maybe he moved to the area or whatnot. But, so he's very concerned about the other farmers in the area. He wants to make sure that everyone's aware of the manticore threat that's in the nearby woods and mountains, to make sure that they're able to sustain their living where they are in the mountains without having to worry about constantly being overrun by manticores that are looking to raid the chicken coop or raid the farmers' houses for the people, frankly.
No, yeah, that's definitely kind of the thought process I had with that.
What is a current problem that prevents Jack from being a bigger player on the stage? Is it the fact that he's older that prevents him from really being out there and charging out into the woods and, getting the job done and stuff like that? Or is there something else that he's really struggling with?
Or it could be that fear that he's not going to be able to do it because he is older. Because fear grips people different ways, and it kind of makes him second guess himself, as you wake up and you have that extra crank, as you get out of bed and you're like, oh, I can't, I can't swing the axe like I used to, it's, just kind of that so I guess it would be old age is kind of is what kind of keeps him.
Obviously, he's older, so are you envisioning him as kind of like a grandfather type figure? Or is he at a father level and he's got sons and daughters to tend to the land, so when he's gone, that his children or his grandchildren will properly know how to maintain the farm, raise the crops, and keep the manticores at bay?
Yeah, I think kind of the grandfather type figure. He has kids at home, maybe the son owns a farm, just far enough away to do his own thing, but, still be kind of in that same business, down the road. He has kin spread out. He knows people.
Okay.
They know him, that type of grandfather.
Well, I think we have formed quite the picture of Jack, the Sky Elf farmer, and it's only fitting now to throw Jack into a random encounter. Alright, so now this is going to be the part of the show where we do a roleplay exercise, and since Brian has done a fantastic job of filling out the details for Jack, it's only natural that he should be the voice for Jack, and I suppose I will bring in one of my characters. This probably sounds something good for Duncan to handle. If you're ready, we can go ahead and jump in.
All right, I'll try my best.
Just want to take a moment to recognize another sponsor of the show, Reaper Miniatures. They have been Texas Titans of the tabletop industry since 1994. They're right here in my backyard, and they have an amazing warehouse and game store. They make everything from paints to gaming accessories. Stream on Twitch with tutorials and interviews, and host the ReaperCon, this year back in person from September 2nd to 5th, 2021 in Denton, Texas. Whatever system you're running, whatever game you're playing, Reaper has a miniature that has you covered. Want to include Randolph in your game? Then might I suggest looking at their catalog for SKU number 77661. Perhaps you need a Lord Grubbub. Check out SKU 02646. Are you in the market for your very own Skink Nose the Lich? Look no further than SKU number 77280. Every time you shop with them and you spend at least $40 on your purchase, they will give you a cool new mini for free. And this miniature of the month is always something new. And if you're wondering how you can enjoy the benefits from my sponsor, if you visit my website, you can find a link for our sponsorship and use my referral code link when you shop to help support Sidekicks and SideQuests and get you some savings. By clicking that link on my website, it helps to track the traffic that our show directs towards Reaper Miniatures. The more traffic, the more that our Texas powers will be able to combine. So again, go check the link out on my website in order to use my special referral code, and be sure to follow Reaper Miniatures on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. And be sure to sign up for ReaperCon 2021 and tell them that Sidekicks and SideQuests sent you. So thank you very much to this sponsor, and back to the podcast. After having met the very interesting Silver Dragon-born blacksmith in the town, Duncan turned down the road the next day and began heading up into the mountains, making his way to the town that was famed for being a heavily Sky Elf populated town. And Duncan, not having much experience with Sky Elves, is anxious and excited to learn more about them as a community. And as Duncan is making his way, he begins to make his way up the winding S-shaped paths up the mountain, and he can see these elaborate farms that are all stretched out across the lands. His eyes catch an interesting scene as he can see that there is this elder of the Sky Elf community who seems to be happily, cheerfully, and hard working as he is tending to his crops on his farm. And so Duncan will kind of approach the nearby fence so as not to intrude on his land. He will call out, "Hello, good sir. How are you doing this fine day? Whew, walking up that path up to the town and sure gets you winded, this mountain air."
Hello. You can come in closer so it's easier so I don't have to talk as loud.
Oh, okay, sure. Duncan will go over to the gate and let himself in as he carefully, approaches the man, and he'll extend his hand and say, "Hello, good sir. My name is Duncan. I'm an adventurer and I travel these lands. It's certainly nice to make your acquaintance."
Yes, my name is Jack. These are my lands, this is my farm.
Duncan will take a survey of the land. He can see that there's all kinds of thriving crops, and he can see some animals milling around in the distance. Duncan will say, I'm surprised. I never thought that there would ever be a community like this up in the mountains. I always thought it was just rocks and billy goats and giants wandering around, but this is quite a beautiful scene.
Yes, we make the best living that we can. The only problem that we have going is we have this huge manticore problem, and then they eat our crops and attack our chickens, and they're just a nuisance. You seem to be pretty good with a sword, let's see, I'm wondering if you could help me out. As you can tell, I've gone on in my years. I used to be able to clear them out for my family, but, they live very far away, and it's hard to bother them with this. But if you could help me out, I have some stuff that you might like to know.
Oh, certainly, yes. I can certainly help you take care of these manticores. I know manticores are no small threat to wave off and pretend don't exist. Certainly, I would hate for anything to happen to your beautiful farm here. Certainly. So, do you say that you have knowledge of these manticores?
Yeah, I used to hunt them in my youth. It was like what we would kind of do. They make really good jerky, and I have some hanging in the thing if you'd like to try, before you go out, and I could teach you how to make it.
Oh, wow, that would be wonderful, of course. And so Duncan will walk with Jack as he leads him towards the smoker to go taste some of this manticore jerky. And Duncan will spend the rest of the day just kind of picking Jack's brain and learning more about manticores as he prepares himself to then eventually into the forest nearby and to go deal with the manticore threat. And scene.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. That was a nice little wholesome scene with nice Jack. I guess it helps that Duncan's a very positive and cheerful sort of adventurer. Isn't going around, bossing around saying, "Hey, I'm the best there is." He's just, "Oh, hi, I'm Duncan. What can I do for you?"
Well, and he didn't just go onto the farm. He stopped at the fence, and that's always, a nice thing to do too. If he had just walked through the gate, that probably would have been "What are you doing?"
Right. Awesome. Well, as we start to head into the final thoughts section of the show, what did you think of your experience here on Sidekicks and Side Quests today?
I was an absolute blast. That was fun. I was really worried about that role-playing aspect. I was like, oh no. Rolling up the random character, that was fun with the dice. Yeah, that was a blast.
I think it's quite a treat and a blessing on this show because many of my guests have not always had experience with Dungeons & Dragons, and they opt to, let's just randomly roll a character. And honestly, those have been some of the most fun episodes because it's discovering your character in the process and having to think on the fly and really flexing those creative muscles that all Dungeons & Dragons players learn to develop over time.
Well, and the roles worked out really well with each other too. That's kind of funny how that always happens. It's not like polar opposites.
Right. Even though polar opposites can be fun, certainly. But yeah, I think the roles worked very well this time around. I'm glad that you had a fun time here on the show. It always makes me happy when I hear that people are having fun on the podcast. I always like to give my guests an opportunity to promote their socials if that's their thing, or if there's any causes or just different things that you think our audience should be aware about. I give you the soapbox. Let the audience know what you care about.
I'll probably just end it with, have your kids in band. Music is for everybody. That's my biggest thing. So that's my soapbox.
Perfect. I think our music fraternity, Phi Mi Alpha Sinfonia, would be proud that we're continuing that mission of promoting music in America. So good on you, Mr. Band Director.
Thanks.
Awesome. Certainly, we want to thank you for being on the podcast today. I think you put it succinctly. We want to have more people out there making music, making the world a more beautiful place, and we want people to have fun. So we want you to go out there, play games with your friends, or if you are needing to make new friends, certainly a board game or a game of D&D is a perfect way to make some new friends.
Always.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show today. Hope to have you back as a guest again in the future, and so that way we can make up some more cool NPCs.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Overcast. Or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit by searching for SideKQ Podcast. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. If you would like to hail the bard, send an email to sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you please leave a review on iTunes to help spread the word. And share our show with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. Sidekicks and Side Quests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy, meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards. Portions of the materials used are property of Wizards of the Coast, copyright Wizards of the Coast, LLC. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4! Sidekicks and Sidekicks.